Hello and well met. This is Lavern with the Fantasy Grounds Academy. Today I'm going to be working more on the arena battle game prep. Essentially, I'm going to add a couple more tokens, and as you can see, I already have the majority of these made. So these are for the main combatants. I wouldn't necessarily make one for every single NPC and player, but if you want your encounters to be more memorable and perhaps customized, you can go through all this stuff. So it took me a bit to do this. If you look here on the NPC sheet, when I click on that, these are all the different tokens or the images that are being used. So essentially, this is the full body image, which is, this thing here that you can share with your players. So if you click on share picture, you can show the players kind of an up close view. The token camera, which is basically the same thing, which is this big one here. And then the flat token, which is just a pog. It's just basically this image with a ring around it. So that's kind of the workload that you could get yourself into when you start doing a lot of homebrew or custom content. So you got to kind of be careful on how much you really want to put into it. And what I'm doing right now is putting the final touches on the stuff. So I'm going to give out everyone here a long rest and kind of get everything set. And I'm going to actually remove the bad guys off there because I'm going to make some changes. So I'm going to hit delete from tracker, and then I'm just going to delete only the bad guys. So this is the starting position in the arena for the players. So I think it looks pretty good in this top-down view. So you can look at it as the kind of like the overall view, the more tactical view, or you can look at it from the camera view, which gives you that kind of that 2D look, which can be interesting depending on what you're trying to show. I think the arena looks pretty good in both views, so I probably will toggle between these during combat, but in most cases I'll probably be using this top down so I can see everything. But the players can opt to switch views so they can see what's going on, and it provided them with tokens so that they're able to do so. So for them, like for instance, this is Durham Iron Fist, the War Cleric Dwarf. He's a kind of like a battle medic. So here there's just a portrait token, the flat token, and then the camera token, which is the 2D view. So this is a little bit different than NPCs because they have a big full body image that you can share with the rest of your group. But for players, it's just basically a portrait photo. So I could put an image here that has more of a background to it, but I just use the same token. So I didn't want to redo. That would be a third piece of art that I have to do. So I didn't feel like doing that. But I did get the full body one in there, which is probably the most important part if you want to show the 2D view. So that's kind of up to you how much effort you want to put into it. So the reason why I'm going to redo the encounter is because I'm making changes to it. So right now these goblins are set with this A for the goblins, for arena goblin. So I'm going to unplace those things right now, and then I'm going to switch the actual token out, but I got a little work to do that I want to share with you before I move on to that. So I'm going to actually I'm going to bring up my Discord account. I'm not showing it on the screen, but I got to go in there and grab a couple pieces of art that I've already worked on ahead of time. I didn't want to spend, hours and minutes and days doing that. I've done a little bit of that in the previous shows regarding this particular series about game prep, but I do want to let you know that the images were created with a generative AI tool, and then I edited those with Canva, and I edited it with like GIMP, and then I used the Roll Advantage token stamp for the medium to small creatures, like all these guys. But when it came to the two-headed Ettin giant, I actually made that in Canva because it's bigger, and the default size for the Roll Advantage token stamp is 256 by 256. And if you have a large creature, you want that to be 512 by 512. And then that way it kind of scales, it looks better. It doesn't distort as much, or it doesn't get as fuzzy. So I'm going to grab my artwork that I made earlier for the show. I didn't want to do this during the, the whole time, because I think that gets a little boring and it doesn't make for a very good show unless you're curious as to how those processes go. So for right now, I just downloaded the images that I'm going to use for the token, and then I'm going to bring those into Fantasy Grounds. Depending, you do this depending on what your needs are and such, but I'm going to add them to the assets. So in Fantasy Grounds, you have basically 3 different things. You have portraits, you have tokens, and then you have regular images. So portraits are kind of a separate thing, and those are usually set up so you can add them to your characters. When you're building characters through the window here, you can click on this, click on portrait, select something on the back end if you have something, or you can use some of the default ones. But in this case, what I'm going to be doing is adding the assets, and right now I'm in images. So I want to go back to the campaign folder, which is where I have all the art. And I have a folder called NPC art. So I'm going to put the goblin token in there. So I want to click on folder, and that's going to bring up the back end of Fantasy Grounds, the directory. And then what I'm going to do is go into my downloads folder and grab the artwork that I had made earlier. So I already have them downloaded. I just got to transfer them over to this other area. And I'm going to have 2 spots. So one is going to be just for the character art, like the 2D stuff. And then the other is going to be a token, which it needs to go in the tokens folder. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And I kind of wanted you to see some of this process before I move on to the fun stuff, because this is the actual work. Like, this is where you actually have to put some effort in and do some editing and, kind of work through it. It doesn't necessarily require that you do this, especially if you do a paid adventure or like a paid product that's already got everything in it. Sorry. Whew. Sorry about that. Anyways, so what I was saying is that I lost my train of thought. I was saying that you were going to build tokens and artwork, and it's going to take a little time. So if you're going to spend that much effort, just know what you're getting yourself into. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, so let's see, where did these things go? Well, go figure. It's not where it should be. Let's see. This library. Downloads. Here we go. What do you know? It went into the standard. Alright, so what I'm going to do is cut these, and I'm going to put them in the Fantasy Grounds folder, but I got a few things that I have to do before. So this art here is going to be for the 3D kind of token and the image token. So I'm going to use that tool to fix that. The token here, I don't really have to do much except for relabel it. So I'm just going to say TKN Goblin. We'll say Archer. We'll leave it at that. And then I'll just, if you want to convert these to WebP, you can do so at the very end. So I'm going to wait until I get this other one done, and then I'll convert them both together. And then I'm going to move this to the tokens folder, because right now it's in the images. I don't want it in there. So, but basically this is what I did with the rest of these. So this was all the originals that I had worked on before. So I'm going to take, and the first one, I'm going to use the 3D image, or the 3D metadata builder tool that Smartworks put out. And then what I'm going to do is just define the height, the width, that sort of thing. So I'm going to take this token, move it into the program. And this is a transparency, so the background is already taken out of it. So that's one step you have to do if you don't already have that. Then I'm going to set the width and the height. So you set measurement region is the first thing you click on here. And then what we'll do is I'm going to click kind of out here to the left of it. And then for the height, I'm going to click down here by the foot. And that sets the height and the width. Now for measurement scale, the expected height of small to medium creatures, 99% of the time, is just 1. So that's 1 5-foot square. If you have a creature that's large, that's going to take up 4 squares on the map or something, then you want to go with 2. Like, you know, something over 10 feet, essentially. And then, or wide. And then there's the huge category, which would be like 3. So it just depends on what kind of creature it is. So if anyone knows how tall a D&D goblin's supposed to be, let me know. But I think it's like 3 feet or something like that. So 3 point, you can use a decimal here. Let me take a look at that. How tall is a goblin? Goblin height. 5e. So 3 to 4 feet. Okay, so we'll say this guy is 3.5 feet. So we'll go 3.5. And then I don't worry about the width because it's already defined. Unless it's a wide creature, like it sits low to the ground and it's more horizontal, then you would do the width instead of the height, or you'd focus on that more. And then you have to set the center floor or the center of this creature. So I'm going to click on that and kind of just go down here and just kind of evenly divide it between these two and just come about right about there. And then you save the XML file. So that's how you define these tokens. And then the other part of it was I was going to convert the 2 images. So this is the XML file that has to go in the same folder as the artwork that I just did. But I need to convert these, so I'm going to take both of those. Actually, I'm going to open up GIMP. And I'm just going to convert both of those over to PNG or WebP format. So this has a batch convert, which makes it a little bit quicker if you've got more than 1 or 2 images. This is a plugin that's free that goes into GIMP, and I'm sure if you have Photoshop, you can do something similar. But basically, there's a manipulation set, which is basically setting up the parameters so that you can convert. In this case, it's going to change the format and compression. And we're going to drop down to WebP. And then they recommend, SmiteWorks recommends 75% for image quality. And then hit OK. Now I'm going to add image. In this case, you could do a whole folder, but I'm just going to do individual file names. And here's the Goblin Archer. And so there's 2 images here that I'm converting to WebP. And then I'll keep the folder hierarchy, and then I need to define the output folder. I'll never find it again. I'm just horrible at that. So what I'll do there is, let's see. Yeah, I want to make sure it's in the same folder because it goes somewhere else and I don't even remember where it went. So I'm going to hit apply and then let it do its thing. It'll go through and convert both images at once. No errors, that's good. And then hit close. Don't hit apply again because that'll redo it. So now that I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and close GIMP. And now I have new unique copies of the actual tokens and then the POG. So I'm going to take these 2 originals, and I always put those in a folder and store that on a shared drive somewhere so I can go back to it. And then these images here, I'm actually going to bring those over to Fantasy Grounds. So I'll cut those out of here, and then I'll go back to the folder here and go back to NPC art, and I'm going to hit paste. And that's going to put the artwork that I just finished in the back end, and I'm going to actually take the token out of here because that doesn't belong here, and go back to the campaign folder, and there's a separate folder here called tokens. So I'll put that in here, and I'm going to hit paste. Now, important thing about this is the naming convention. So this one's already named, so I don't have to worry about that one, but I'm going to go back to this image here, and if you aren't careful, you can mess up the file. So I'm going to leave this, but this says player character blah 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 here, and that says player character blah blah blah. Those need to match. So I want to see if there's anything in here that has the file name. So no. So if you change anything, it needs to match the XML image too. I generally don't do this, but I forgot to change the name before I converted it. So I'll just go goblin underscore archer for that. And then over here, same thing. So goblin underscore archer. And you got to make sure it's spelled exactly the same, or it's not going to work. Okay, so there's that. There's that. Okay. Now, once that happens, now I'm going to hit the refresh. And there's the goblin here. There's a preview of it. And now what I'm going to do with my encounter is I already have it pinned to the map. So that's one reason I need to use a top-down, because it has all my shortcuts. When you use the 2D mode, you don't really have access to your shortcuts on the map. So I'm going to bring up the battle here. And I'm going to actually remove these goblins because these are the older version. And I'm going to actually update the NPC record. Normally, you could just update the tokens here without impacting the actual image. But this is kind of a unique character or NPC to this game. So here's the arena goblin. I'm going to actually unlock it. And I'm going to drag or open up its folder here. And drag this full body image into this area and also down here. So those are the two images that are going to go with this particular image. And then I'm going to go to tokens, go to my campaign folder, and grab this thing and use this for the flat token. So that's basically changed at the NPC level. And then when I go to add it to this encounter here, it's going to basically be that way. And I'm actually going to replace this arena name here, and I'll say goblin, comma, arena, because I want it to sort, and if everything is called arena, there won't be any sorting in there. Because I have one called arena guard, so that's kind of a challenge there. So now that I've done that, now I can go and update the actual encounter. So if you change something here, you gotta go and change it all the way through sometimes. So be careful with that. If you have an encounter set up already and then you make changes over on this NPC record, it's not going to change this. And if it's already on the combat tracker, it's not going to change that. You got to go through the whole thing. If you're going to change it at here, you have to change it here, and then you have to put it back on the combat tracker or the map. So just as a word of advice, most of the time you don't have to mess with this. The stuff is already included, so you know normally you don't have to do any of that. So I'm going to stop this audio in the background for now. Starting to get on my nerves. Okay, so this is the images. Now, if you want to add an image to the description, you could do so if you wanted to link it. But what you have to do is add it as an actual image and not just an asset. So if I wanted to link a picture of the goblin to the NPC record, I can bring up the artwork and use that and then link it here. But I'm not going to worry about it right now. So this is essentially the goblin now. And I already changed this Ettin. So I'll drag and drop this record on here, and you can see the changes have been accepted. Change that to 3. I'm going to hit refresh on this area here so that it refreshes and updates everything here. And for the faction, I'm going to make the Grondar is actually hostile. The goblins, I would normally set them at neutral, but right now they're at hostile as well because it's like survival mode. And then I'll take this information, and then when the encounter comes up, I'll just click on this link and send them over to the combat tracker, or in this case, I will pre-place them. That way, when it comes time to running this, they're ready to go. So this Grondar the Brawler Ettin guy is going to be right up here in front, and then the arena goblins will be scattered back here. They kind of use him as a shield, like a meat shield, for their survival, and that's basically their starting positions. And then what I'll do is when I close this, they'll disappear, but they'll still be a part of the scene or the image. So if I close this, you can see they disappear off the map. But when it comes time to run the game, or if you want to do it ahead of time, you can. Is I will take and put this encounter on the actual combat tracker. So if I take this and click on it, it's going to bring up the encounter, and then I just add it to tracker. Now they're all on the map. It's kind of hard to see them, but they're there. They're just grayed out right now. So this is where I'd want to be before I start my adventure. So this would automatically, it rolled their initiative as soon as I added it to the combat tracker. And I actually have some options changed in here from the default settings because I don't want all of these to be the same. So in other words, if I didn't do that, all the goblins would have the same hit points and the same initiative roll. I didn't want that. So I had it to where it will change that based off the settings. So for combat auto initiative, if you have it on group, it will set everything up as a group and they all go together in like a mob. But if you have it on off, you have to roll manually for each one, or you can use the menu to do it. But in this case, if it's on, that just means it's going to roll for the NPCs individually. So I changed that, so when I add them to the combat tracker, they all have different varying amounts of their initiatives are changed. So that's why I did it like that, because I wanted that variation. And then for, let's see, there's another couple rules here. I changed the diagonal distance to 1.5. So if you move a token diagonally, it'll count every other square as 10 feet. Because if you don't, they're actually moving 1.5 times further than they should as far as, you know, the rules is written. You don't have to worry about it if you don't want to, but it does change the distance when they move diagonally. So I have that set to 1.5, so it calculates that. And then there's a NPC hit point. So I have it on random. If you leave it on standard or max, it changes that. But I have it on standard. But if you do random, it will fluctuate. This is what I changed it to, actually, is random. So it'll change their hit points. The starting hit points are different. So they're not always going to have the same amount of hit points every time. And actually, the giant here, his normal hit points would be 85, but he's actually got 86 because it rolled. So that's the difference when you do that. But if I hadn't changed it, he would just have the same number every time. So that's why I changed that. So when you add encounters, they're going to have variations, slight variations in their hit points and in their initiative. So that's why I've changed those. You don't have to. You can leave them that way. You know, it's kind of up to you. And then for attunement slots, this is kind of up to you, but you can change it to how many, like up to 5 attunement slots. I like to change it to proficiency bonus, so I figure when the characters go up in levels after every so often, they're going to get an additional proficiency number. So 2 will be the starting number, and then it'll go up to 3, and then 4. So that gives the, I guess it would kind of give more precedence to, you know, how they're leveling up, and when they level up, they'll have access to attune to another magic item. So that's just kind of my preference. You can do it the way you want. I already have the background decal set up, but that's essentially this image in the background. So let me fix that. So I have this drop down menu up here, and then I use this zoom to fit to kind of recenter the map. I also turned off the auto center maps. If you have that on, every time you move the combat tracker, it moves the map. I don't want it moved. If it moves, I want to move it. I don't want Fantasy Grounds to move it for me. And I'll turn on this navigation panel down here in case I need to move it, like, you know, like kind of adjust it, move it slightly, either way. So it's kind of, you know, whatever you need. So this is the battle scene. This is where I want to be when I get ready to start. And then if I want the audio, I already have a link here. And then I can start the combat audio. And then I can start the crowd sounds. So this is basically when the players come on the table and they have their players selected. I'll do the narration. I will prepare. I'll describe the scene. And kind of get everything set. So when they are getting ready to play, you have the immersion that you're looking for, and it makes this a little bit more interesting and not as static, and you know, that sort of thing. It kind of depends on what you're going for and the rule set you're playing. So, but this is where I want to be. It's like this. And for the party sheet, I have the player characters on here, in case I need to make a combined skill check or something like that. And then on the inventory, I'm not going to worry about that. I don't have this page showing because we're not going to do any buying, selling, trading, looting necessarily. And then on the order tab, I do have this set up, and basically this is their starting formation. And that's basically how that will be if you drag them onto the map. They'll roughly be in this configuration. And then as far as XP goes, I'm not going to worry about that. This is just a one-shot. So basically the watch order and the main tab are what I'm going to be basically using, if at all. So that's all set and ready to go. They're all on the combat tracker. All the creatures are on the combat tracker. Music's queued. We got links for stuff. So I do have some hazards on this particular map. These are, we got the rolling spike roller thing, and there's the NPC stat block for it. And then if you need to, you can make your adjustments here before you add anything to your combat. But normally for traps and such and hazards, you don't have to add those. So this is just to have the stat block in case you need it. So this is like if someone runs into that, I have the saving throw and the damage if need be. So this is just, you know, you can roll a damage, and then here's the cover that it supplies. There's the rotating blade. It's kind of like a trap. It's more of an obstacle or a hazard, but there's that. And then you have just everything's kind of set. So when I click on these, it's going to bring up the stat block, so I don't have to dig around looking for it. And the same thing with the combat tracker. So if I click on this, I want to move all of these entries into this pile here. So I'm going to do that now. So this is part of my prep. So you can drag and drop these over and have them ready to go. So when their turn comes up on the combat tracker, it's not going to cover the map or, you know, whatever, because they usually pop up in the middle. Before anything else happens, these things, when you open them up for the first time, they open in the center. So if you know that, then you can move them. So now that I have them moved, they're not going to be a nuisance. Here's the players. They're all ready to go. I got them on the actions tab, set to combat and actions down below. Same thing with the next player. I don't have to necessarily babysit these, but if I do need to intervene, it's right here. It's easy for me to get to it, and it's not going to cover other windows up. It's all going to be in the same spot. Combat, actions. Yep. So that's all I'm doing is kind of checking the character sheets, make sure they're all set. You got your ammo in there. Combat, actions. Okay, so this is basically the finale. Now what I'm going to do is actually test it out just to see how it goes, because I can always reset everything. So what I'll do now, I got the music going. I'll turn that down a little bit, and then I'll start running this thing. So we'll just pretend like the players are on the table, and I'll probably have them roll initiative, because right now none of them have initiative. So describe the scene, the action, the environment, all that stuff. I'll ask the players to roll for their individual initiatives, but in this case, since I don't have anyone on the table, I'll click menu, go to initiative, and then I'm just going to roll for the players. So now it's re-rolled. We've got all of the NPCs and the PCs have their own initiative. So the Goblin and Rurik Thunderhead, the human berserker, are first. Since they are both at 21, I'll give the benefit of the doubt to the Goblins, since they're a little bit quicker in overall and smaller. So this guy will go first. So that's this guy that's highlighted. So I would probably move him aside a little bit and have him kind of get out of the direct line of sight here, or he might move up. But they're afraid of this big dude here, and I want to make these guys visible now so you can see the tokens. And what I'll have him do is move over to the side somewhere, or maybe he'll just follow this guy. So I'll maybe have him move up, but he might also take out his bow and shoot. So maybe I'll have him do that. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to move him to about there. And then if that's a good movement, he's not going through walls and stuff, I'll go ahead and approve it. Now he wants to target one of the players, probably this guy up front. So I'll have him, I'm going to hold down the right control key and click on the target. So that is, what is that? 150 feet away. So that's quite a ways, but we'll see what this brings us here. So if I go to the offense and then I click on the description of the short bow, yeah, it's 180, 320, so he's in range. So now I'm going to double click on the attack roll in the combat tracker, or I could do it on his NPC sheet, which is here, but I would do it on the combat tracker. It's better and it's tracked. So I'll just double click on the short bow, and that's a 9. So that missed. So, oh my god. Let me see if I have those other things enabled here. I must have shut down the Sirenscape. I don't know what happened to it, but I think it's still going. Yeah, I just turned it down too much on my... There we go. Alright. So, that was a whiff. So he just shot, that just flew over the dude's head, or over his shoulder. So he basically, he didn't draw first blood, but essentially that's his turn. And then since he's still got 10 feet to move, he's gonna move behind the giant creature, so he's not a target anymore. So I'll have him move. So he moves back there. He's still got this guy targeted, but now I'm going to pass the turn. So that's basically how that rolls out. So pass the turn, or next actor. Now Rurik goes, the barbarian. So he is going to make a mad dash towards this thing. Since he really doesn't have a lot of missile weapons, like he has a couple things, like he has a spear, but he's not going to throw that yet. And he has some daggers. So I'm just going to have him run. So he's going to run up here to get behind this thing. It's rotating right now. So I'll do a dash move. So I'm going to hold the Alt key as the Game Master and move him 60 feet. So that's his move. And I'll go ahead and approve it. So he just took his full turn and he moved 60 feet. So he's just kind of getting ready for combat. He takes out his long spear. He's ready to go. So he's just going to stand there defensively, I believe, unless he's attacked. So I'll just kind of move it on, move this along. Okay, so the War Priest is a little bit concerned that the guy took off without him, but you know, he's a battle medic by trade, but I'm going to have him cast a spell. So he's going to cast the Bless spell on himself and the other two. So he'll take this Bless spell. I'm going to actually have him target himself and the 3 others. And the range on this thing, if you open up the description, is 30 feet. So these girls, I should say, are within 30 feet, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'll hold down the control key, click on, oops, I got to make sure I have, you got to make sure you have the token selected first. And now, and then I'll select himself. So here's all the targets, and now we're going to apply the Bless spell. And that applies that to each character. It is a concentration spell, so if he gets hurt, Fantasy Grounds will automatically roll to see if he maintains concentration. I'm going to check off 1 level 1 spell slot. So that's basically his first turn, and then I'll have him move up a little bit. He's not in a big hurry to advance, so I'll just move him probably about there and leave it at that. He might even come over towards, actually I'll have him move over there. So I'll have him move up here and maybe get behind one of these things or something. So that's where he's headed. So that's his turn. He doesn't have anything else he wants to do. He might actually cast a spiritual weapon since that is a bonus action. So what I'll do is have him cast it, and there's a couple ways you can handle this. So if you want to do kind of like a spell token, you can do that, or you can have to, for more ease of use, just have them right click on the map, go to pointers, and then just draw a little circle and then have them move that. But if you want the real fancy immersion and all that stuff, you can go into your assets if you have them, and then what I would do is go back to the main directory, go to images, or actually tokens, and I want to look for spell tokens. Actually, I'll just say spiritual weapons since I don't want to search through every single thing that says spell. So spiritual weapon, that should be better. So you got to think of your search terms, because if you don't, it's gonna take it a long time to search through your assets. So these are all variations of spiritual weapons. So I want one that kind of looks like a war. Here we go. So here's a hammer. Let me look at some of these other ones. There we go. Here's Mordin's hammer. So what you can do with this is drag and drop this down to the hotkeys as the GM. The player can't do this. You have to do it for them initially. And then I'm going to move this onto the battle map. Okay, so this is now the spiritual weapon. Now, there's probably not any light on it or necessary, but I'm going to add some light to it. So if this was a torch or a light spell or anything like that, you could do this. But in this case, I will unlock the map temporarily. And I'd probably do this before the game started, just so I don't have to do it during the game. And then I'm going to click lighting. And then I'm going to go to token lights. And what I'll do is I'm going to make a custom light here. So the light range is going to be like 5 feet. I'll just say 10. Actually 5. Yeah, 10 feet's fine. 10. The fall off is 15. And then for dim, it's going to start at, actually the fall off here will be 20. And then for dim lighting there, and then 25 for the fall off. So this is your lighting, and then I'm going to change it to this kind of this light blue color. And then hit OK. And then click on this plus button here. And that's going to actually add a little bit of a blue glow. It's kind of hard to see because it's daytime, but if I go to the settings and go into moonlight, now you can kind of see that. So that's kind of what I would do for my players if we needed to, and then they can move this around. So that's his spiritual hammer. So he cast that as a bonus action, so I need to make sure that I check off one of the slots. There we go. So that's his bonus action. So let me see what this says, make sure I'm doing it. So you create, because he already cast a spell, as a bonus action you can move the weapon. It doesn't say you can cast it. So I'll just have him cast that in the next round. I'll just leave it like this, but he can cast it in the next round. So that's what he would do anyway, so I'll just leave it there so I don't have to redo it. And come back to the ambient lighting and go to back to sunlight. But anyways, that's how you can add a token and represent like the spiritual weapon or whatever, you know, like a spell token. Alright, so that's his turn. So going down to the third goblin, or I should say up in this case, this guy is going to kind of do the same thing as Friend did, but he's going to run down to this point, or move down to that point. So I'm going to hold the Alt key. Let me make sure I got this locked. And I'm in play mode, so yep, move him down here. Actually, I'm going to move him the rest of the way. So he's going to be right here. You get partial cover from this. So he's just going to move down there, and then if I click on the spiked wall, I have some notes back here. So it's defensive. It gives you, let's see, the wall provides half cover, +2 to AC, dex saving throws to creatures behind it. Small creatures may gain 3/4 or superior cover at +5. So he's just considered small. So he gets a, you know, if he stays behind there and he has the right angle, he can hide out. So I can move him one more square. So that's basically where he's at. So that's his turn. So Grashka the Blade, Ironblood. So she's a champion soldier type. She's a half orc or an orc. So I'm going to move her forward. She's just going to march up. She's not going to run. And I'll have her move out this way. So she doesn't like to be clumped up too close to people. She believes in formations, but she's wary of like fireballs and stuff. She doesn't know what these guys are capable of. So I'm going to have her move. She's going to take out her longsword, which is her kind of her go-to weapon. And I'll bring up her character sheet. So she has a longsword and some daggers. So I'll move her up. So holding the Alt key, I'm going to actually move her up to her full movement and then approve it. Then she takes out her weapon. So that's her turn basically. She's not doing anything spectacular right now. I have her fighting style already enabled. So she has her own fighting style with the melee weapon and she's ready to go. So she's like, okay, she got her blessing from the dwarf and now she's heading up. Okay, so Talindra is a kind of an entertainer, acrobatic, kind of bard-like individual. So she's got quite a few more things that she can do. I'll have her use Bless later, or not Bless, but I'll have her use her her inspiration later if she needs it. But she also has these flourishes that she can do with her bardic inspiration. She snuck in a bag of ball bearings, so she could possibly throw those on the ground and make someone slip. And then she's got all these different options here for herself. So I don't think she's going to cast any spells yet. But what I do think I'm going to have her do is take out her hand crossbow. And I'll have her kind of move behind this object here. So again, I'll hit this Alt here, move her to her full movement rate, and set her there. So that'll get her in position. She's got her hand crossbow out, and she's loading it. So I'll say she's got a ready action. If anyone comes in range, she will fire. So I'll just click on the ready action. It just puts it on her temporarily, and if she doesn't use the action by the end of her turn, it just kind of goes away. Alright, so now we're going to move the two-headed Ettin guy. So he's going to move forward. He's going to move over to the right because that's where most of the people are going. So I'm going to have to move him across. Bringing up his stat block, he can move 40 feet. So I'm going to hit Alt and just have him move up. He doesn't have any missile weapons, so he's moving up in for the kill. And he has 2 weapons, a battle axe and a Morningstar, and he's kind of going, ugh. So he's pretty nasty. But this guy, if I wanted to share this image with him, with the players, I did actually link this image back here. So if I open this up, I can actually share this with the players by right-clicking and going to sharing and then share record. And that will, so the players can get an idea of what he looks like. You know, if you wanted to do something like that, first impressions type thing, and go ahead and close it. So that just gives them an idea of what they're up against. So he just kind of looks around and goes, ugh. Alright, so the last goblin here is going to also move over to cover. So shift or alt and move. So that's its turn. It's going to take out its bow and fire it across at Grashka. So I'm going to hold the control key. Make sure I have his token selected first and then target her. So that's 140 feet. He's got pretty much an open shot on her. So I'll go ahead and double click on the attack roll. And that's a 17, so that hit. So now I'm going to roll damage. So he drew first blood. Ooh, and that did 5 points of damage plus 2, so 7 points of damage on her already. So that hurt. So now that he's jumping up and down, he's all excited. You know, he's happy that he landed a blow. So now we go up to the next category, the next goblin back to the rotation. So that's basically how this would play out in a skirmish here. So I just wanted to kind of show that process a little. So they just keep rinse and repeat, and there are going to be situations where you have to, you know, make rulings and, you know, change range and all kinds of stuff. So what I did for this area is, if someone can get to the center, they can stay there, but they'll be at disadvantage because it's moving around. So they can still like shoot, but they can't really, or throw something, but they're at disadvantage because they're moving around. However, they're protected by the rotating blade. So that's something I added that idea for later in case for a tactic. And yeah, so it's a rotating trap. It's basically like one of the staple hazards in the Ubershrike Death Arena. It's designed to add a lethal element of danger to the already brutal gladiatorial combats. These traps are constructed from ancient mechanisms powered by arcane energy and gears, their blades spinning relentlessly. Arena masters use these traps to force fighters into risky maneuvers, adding excitement for the bloodthirsty crowd. So that's another thing, that if the players adapt and they play well and they role play a little bit, there's little favors they can get depending on what they do, their performance, the way they fight, how they describe their actions. Those sort of things will contribute to the gameplay, and they'll be rewarded for it. So there's a handout that is, this is the sign, but you have this inspirational plaque. So this is something I would put in the options when you go to message of the day. I can add this record to this, so when the players log into the table, they'll have the message of the day, and I can actually link this to the map and have it ready to go. And I can actually write whatever I want in here. So let me change that, and I'll just say, you know, welcome to the something like welcome to the Death Arena. Welcome to your doom. Welcome to the Ubershrike Arena. I'll say Death Arena. Arena of Death. So this will come up when they pick their characters. So you can add stuff like that. So this is like a handout. And then what I'll do is close that for now. And there's another one. Let's see. That's just the advertisement. Let's see, where is that? That's Founders Day. There's the sign. Yep. Ubershrike pamphlet. There we go. So this is the pamphlet that that you can give out to players. So this would be another item that I would link here to the startup. So when they log into the table, they have something to interact with. So entry level combatant should apply to the training ground. So this some role playing stuff, you know, just things to make things a little bit more interesting. Let's see, there's the courtyard. Yeah, so this is what you would see in the courtyard. So I'll just go ahead and link that in there as well. So when you join, oops. Yeah, there we go. So when you join the table and you claim the sheets, the players can see this stuff. So that's kind of cool. And this is just, you know, stuff that you can use to. I'm going to share this record. I'll share the other record just in case. And you can see this letter P here is what's been shared to the table. Let's see. Right click, sharing, share record. Okay. So that's basically the setup. You know, I kind of got this message of the day ready to go. I got the map laid out. I've tested everything. So what I'm going to do is go to menu and go to rest. And we're going to do a full long rest because I want to reset everything. And then I'm going to actually take the goblins off of the combat tracker for now. Delete only foes. And then I can bring up the encounter again by clicking on the link. And then they're already placed, so I'll just add them back to the combat tracker. And they're all set, ready to go for the next group. So this is where you want to be when it comes to your game prep. When you're ready to run, you kind of want everything kind of in its place. And you've got all this stuff tested and figured out. You got all your shortcuts down here at the bottom. I'm going to get rid of some of these. I don't need them. There we go. So that's basically it. And this would be a common thing that you would do every time. You make yourself a kind of a methodology, and this gets a lot easier. So I'm ready to go now. I'm ready to run the adventure. And if you guys are interested in signing up to play, you guys kind of already have an idea what's going to go on. So this would be in the Fantasy Grounds Academy, and we're having our 7th anniversary. We've got a couple other events in our community. In the events section, you'll find some games up in there. We got Cyberpunk, we have a Pathfinder 2, we have a couple D&D ones. I think we have Dragonlance, we have mine. And Saturday I'm doing a workshop with, if you're interested in artificial intelligence, prompting AI stuff, I'm doing a workshop Saturday. And then Sunday I'm going to run this game in the afternoon. So under images, yeah, so here's our handout for the Fantasy Grounds Academy Founders Day weekend. So that's coming up next week. So if you're interested in that, join our server. I'll have links for the, there should be a link for the Fantasy Grounds Academy in our description of the video. But you guys take care. Have a good rest of your week. Tomorrow's Friday. And by the way, next Friday I'll be on the Fantasy Grounds Friday. So if you guys want to drop by and say hi, I will be talking about Founders Day and how our community started and what our focus is, and you know how things have evolved over the years, and you know, all kinds of stuff. So if you guys want to talk, I'll be there. Ask questions, yell at me, whatever you want to do. Okay, folks, take care. Hopefully this helps you in the long run. I know I went over a lot of different random things, but I think a lot of these things are things you'll have to eventually face or deal with when you're setting up your game. So that's why I shared the process with you. I'm done with the series. I've done 3 videos regarding this particular thing, and you can see it from episode